The unwanted seat, the Academy transport ship, floated through the silent void of space. Inside, dozens of young cadets filled the rows of seats. They came from many species, scaled, feathered, metallic-skinned, and soft-skinned like humans. The air buzzed with whispers, laughter, and nervous energy. Everyone was preparing for the long training year ahead, but in the middle row, one seat remained empty. The cadets avoided it on purpose. Their eyes kept flicking toward the figure sitting, alone beside that empty space. She was small and delicate compared to most, her silver-blue skin glowing faintly under the ship's white lights. Her hair was dark, braided neatly down her back. Her name was Liora. And the reason no one sat near her was simple. Her scent. The smell drifted across the rows thick, sharp and earthy. To some, it was like rotting wood after rain. To others, it was like burned metal. Whatever it reminded them of, it made them wrinkle their noses and turn away. A few cadets whispered insults. Some covered their faces with scarves. Liora kept. Her eyes lowered. She knew this scene too well. Wherever she went, seats around her stayed empty. She pulled her arms tight around her body, pretending she didn't notice. But deep inside, the loneliness grew heavier with every passing minute. The ship doors hissed open once more. A late arrival stepped inside, a human boy. He looked around quickly, scanning the full rows. His name was Ethan, a first-year cadet. Like the others, his uniform was a little wrinkled, his hair messy as if he had rushed. His eyes, however, were sharp and curious, always moving, always studying. Ethan saw at once what everyone else saw, the single empty seat. He noticed the way cadets leaned away from it, glaring at the girl beside it. A smile tugged at his lips. Without hesitation, he walked down the aisle. The whispers grew louder. "Is he blind?" one alien muttered. "Doesn't he smell it?" Another hissed. "He's actually going to sit there?" Liora's hands shook in her lap. She thought he would pass her by, like the rest. But Ethan stopped, dropped his bag, and slid right into the empty seat beside her. "Hey," he said casually, as if nothing. Strange was happening. "This spot taken?" Liora blinked at him in shock. "No, it's not." Her voice was quiet, almost a whisper. The cadets around them exchanged looks of disbelief. Some even laughed. But Ethan ignored them. He leaned back, stretching his arms as if he had found the most comfortable chair on the ship. "I'm Ethan," he introduced himself. "And you are?" She hesitated, her eyes flicking nervously toward the others who were watching. Then she answered, "Liora." "Nice to meet you, Liora." He gave her a grin. Her heart thudded in confusion. She wanted to ask him why he wasn't holding his nose like the others. She wanted to know why he didn't flinch. At last, she whispered, "You don't smell it?" "Oh, I smell it," Ethan replied easily. He closed his eyes for a moment, taking a slow breath as if enjoying it. "But it doesn't bother me. Actually, it reminds me of something." Liora stared at him, speechless. Ethan's gaze softened. As he looked at her, "Back on Earth, when I was little, my family lived near a forest. After the rain, the air smelled heavy, like wet wood and green moss. Sometimes, when a storm passed, the trees burned from lightning, and the air was smoky. Too, that's what your scent reminds me of. Forest, fire, rain." For the first time in years, Liora's chest loosened. She felt something warm, a spark of hope. No one had ever described her smell like that before. To everyone else, it was disgusting. To this human, it was. Oh, the whispers around them faded into the background. Liora couldn't stop staring at Ethan. She had spent her whole life believing her scent was a curse. And now, this stranger had turned it into something beautiful. But even as relief washed over her, a small fear remained. Why was a human the species known for their strange bravery, unaffected when so many others recoiled? The ship jolted as it entered hyperspace. The lights flickered, and the voices of cadets dropped low. Leora turned her face to the window, watching stars stretch into white lines. Beside her, Ethan leaned closer and whispered, "You don't need to hide anymore." "Not from me." Leora's breath caught. She wanted to believe him. But in her mind, shadows of her people's past rose, memories of exile, whispers of curses, warnings she had heard since childhood. She didn't know it yet, but the choice Ethan made to sit beside her would change both their lives, and the galaxy would soon learn that the scent everyone feared carried a secret far greater than disgust. The scent of memories. The hum of the transport ship filled the air. Rows of cadets were busy talking, but their voices lowered when they looked at the strange pair, Ethan, the human boy who had chosen the unwanted seat, and Leora, the alien girl with the scent everyone avoided. Leora sat stiffly, afraid to move. She felt the stares pressing against her back. The whispers came again. "Humans must be broken," one alien muttered. "He'll regret it soon," another said, covering his nose dramatically. Ethan pretended not to hear them. He leaned back, arms folded, as though he belonged exactly where he was. Leora couldn't understand him. She turned her face slightly, speaking so quietly only he could hear. Why did you sit here?" Ethan opened one eye, studying her expression. Then he smiled faintly. "Because it was the only seat left." Leora frowned. "That's not true. You could have stood." "True," Ethan admitted. "But why? Stand when there's a perfectly good seat?" He tapped the chair with his hand. "And besides, it's next to you. That's a bonus." Her eyes widened at his boldness. She looked away quickly, her silver blue cheeks darkening with embarrassment. Still, she couldn't hold back her question any longer. Her voice trembled. "My scent, it doesn't make you sick?" Ethan took in a slow breath, closing his eyes for a moment, as if letting the smell wash over him. When he opened them, they were calm. "No, it reminds me of something important. Something I haven't thought about in years." Leora tilted her head, curious despite herself. "What is it?" Ethan's gaze shifted to the window, where stars blurred into streaks of light. His voice grew softer, like he was speaking more to himself than to her. "When I was a kid on Earth, after every storm, I would go outside. The ground would be wet, the air thick with rain. My father would take me into the forest, where the trees dripped with water. The smell was everywhere: wet wood, green moss, smoke from the fires that lightning sometimes left behind." "That's what you remind me of." Leora's breath caught. No one had ever described her scent like that before. To others, it was dirt, rot, or poison. But to him, it was a memory of home. For the first time, a small smile tugged at her lips. But then the weight of reality pulled it down again. "You are the first who says that. To everyone else, it is disgusting." Ethan shrugged. "Their loss." His simple words hit her harder than he realized. She wanted to ask him more, but her chest felt too tight. So she stayed silent, clutching her hands together in her lap. Yet inside her, something shifted. For years she had carried shame. Now, sitting beside this human, she felt that shame begin to crack. But the moment was broken by the voice of a tall cadet across the aisle, his tone mocking. "Hey, human! Careful. Sit too close and you'll reek like her too." The group of cadets around him laughed. Leora shrank into herself, her small hope vanishing. She lowered her head, expecting Ethan to laugh along or shift away. Instead, Ethan leaned forward, his sharp eyes locking onto the mocking cadet. "You smell worse than she does," he said flatly. The laughter cut short. The cadet blinked in. Shock. The others stared. Ethan leaned back again, calm as ever. At least her scent tells a story. Yours just tells me you're afraid. The alien's face turned dark, his jaw tightening. For a moment, it seemed like a fight would break out. But the ship's lights flickered, and a robotic voice announced, "Cadets, prepare for landing." The moment passed, but the tension did not. Leora could feel angry eyes burning into her from across the rows. Yet for the first time in her life, someone had stood up for her. As the ship descended, Leora whispered, "Why did you defend me?" Ethan looked at her, serious now. "Because I've seen this before. People afraid of what they don't understand. But sometimes the thing they fear most is the thing that saves them." His words struck her like lightning. She didn't know why, but a shiver ran down her spine. The ship rumbled as it entered the atmosphere of the Academy world. Leora pressed her forehead against the glass, watching the ground grow closer. Her scent filled the air, unchanging, unavoidable. And yet beside her, the human sat without fear, without shame. Deep inside, old memories stirred within her memories, not entirely her own. Her people's stories, half-whispered legends of battlefields, of humans who once walked beside them. She had always thought they were myths. But now, with Ethan sitting next to her, she wondered, could it be true? As the ship touched down, she realized one thing. Her life would never be the same again. And somewhere in her scent, in the memories it carried, lay a secret even she had yet to uncover. Asterisk. The weight of shame. The Academy grounds stretched wide beneath twin suns, casting long golden shadows across the landing platforms. Cadets marched off the transport ship in organized rows, their chatter echoing through the metal walkways. But in the middle of the group, Leora walked with her head lowered. Even here, the whispers followed her. Some cadets kept a safe distance, their steps drifting aside whenever the breeze carried her scent. Ethan stayed at her side. He didn't slow. He didn't drift away. He walked as if her scent didn't matter at all. Leora's heart was heavy. She had felt this shame all her life. From her earliest days, she remembered her mother warning her, "Hide your scent. Mask it if you can, or others will fear you." Her people had tried everything: soaps, powders, herbs, but nothing erased it. The scent clung to their skin, their hair, their very blood. It was the mark of their species. By the time she was 10, Leora had learned to stay at the edges of crowds. By the time she was 15, she had stopped speaking in groups. She knew her voice would not be heard anyway. And now, in the Grand Academy of the Galaxy, nothing had changed. As they entered the great courtyard, towering statues of heroes from every species lined the square. Leora's eyes flicked up at them. Not one statue bore the shape of her kind. Her chest ached. "We were never heroes, only curses." Ethan noticed her silence. "You okay?" he asked softly. She nodded quickly. "I am used to this. Used to being treated like you don't belong," he pressed. His voice was gentle, not mocking. She hesitated. "Yes, that is the way it has always been." Ethan frowned. "That's wrong." Leora gave a bitter laugh, though it barely escaped her lips. "It is not wrong to them. To them, it is nature." She gestured at the cadets passing by. "They believe my people are cursed. Even my own kind say the same. We carry shame in our blood." Ethan stopped walking. She froze, afraid she had said too much. But he just looked at her with those sharp, curious human eyes. "Your people ever tell you where the scent comes from?" he asked. Her breath caught. "It comes from us. It is who we are." "Yes, but why?" Ethan pressed. "Smells don't just appear for no reason. On Earth, scents mean something. Flowers use them to call bees. Trees release them to warn of fire. Every smell has a story. So what's yours?" Leora shook her head. "I don't know. No one knows." The elders say it is punishment, a reminder of some old sin. Ethan's eyes narrowed, thoughtful. Punishment? Or maybe memory. Liara blinked at him. Memory? He leaned closer, lowering his voice so the others wouldn't hear. My people have old records. Stories so old they're almost forgotten. In them, there are allies described who fought beside humans long ago. They smelled of fire and earth. The stories called them the scented warriors. Her pulse quickened. The words felt like thunder inside her chest. That cannot be. My people never speak of such things. Maybe they don't want to, Ethan said, but it doesn't mean it isn't true. For a moment, she couldn't breathe. All her life she had carried her scent as a curse. But here was a human suggesting it was something else, something powerful. Before she could ask more, a deep voice interrupted. Cadets! An instructor stood at the edge of the courtyard, tall and armored, his voice booming. The cadets quickly formed lines. Liara and Ethan stepped into place. The instructor paced before them. You have entered the greatest academy in the galaxy. Here, weakness is stripped away. Here, only strength remains. You will learn to fight, to command, to survive. Those who fail will be cast out. Liara felt her stomach twist. She already knew who they would call weak. She braced herself, as if on cue. The mocking cadet from the ship sneered at her from the next row. He whispered loud enough for others to hear. Let's hope her stink doesn't kill us before the training does. Snickers followed. Liara clenched her fists, her shame returning like a wave. She lowered her head again. But then, out of the corner of her eye, she saw Ethan glance at the cadet. Not with anger this time, but with something else. Calm, quiet strength. And he whispered to her, just loud enough for her to hear. Don't believe their lies. Your scent means something. I'll prove it. Her heart skipped. His words lit a small flame inside her chest, a flame that refused to go out. For the first time, Liara wondered if maybe, just maybe, she wasn't cursed. Maybe her scent was not. Shame at all. Maybe it was a key to something greater, something her people had long forgotten. And with Ethan beside her, she would soon find out the truth. Asterisk, the human connection night, fell on the Academy world. The suns dipped behind the horizon, leaving the training grounds painted in silver light from distant stars. Most cadets had retreated to their barracks, exhausted from the first day of drills. But Liara couldn't sleep. She sat alone at the edge of the courtyard, where tall stone walls shielded her from prying eyes. Her scent hung heavy in the cool night air, carried by the wind. Normally, she would have hidden inside to spare herself the whispers. But tonight, she let it drift free. For the first time, she wanted to know what it truly meant. Footsteps approached. She turned quickly, ready for mockery, but it was only Ethan. He carried a small datapad under his arm. His expression was calm, though his eyes flicked to the stars, as if weighing secrets too heavy to speak. You should be resting, Liara said softly. So should you, Ethan replied, settling onto the stone beside her. But something tells me your thoughts are louder than sleep. She lowered her gaze. You're not wrong. A silence fell between them, broken only by the hum of the Academy's defense shields. At last, Ethan powered up the datapad, the blue glow lighting his face. I've been reading, he said. Old human records. Stories from our earliest days among the stars. I think you should hear this. Liara's eyes widened. About my people? He nodded. About beings who smelled of fire and earth. They were described as kin from the stars, warriors who never surrendered, even when worlds burned. Humans. Fought beside them once long ago, before the galaxy looked like this. Liara's heart pounded. That cannot be. My people say we were never warriors, only outcasts. Maybe that's what they want you to believe, Ethan said, his voice low and steady. History can be buried. Memories can be twisted. But sense don't lie. They carry meaning across time. She hugged her knees to her chest. The words stirred something deep inside her, something she didn't want to believe but couldn't ignore. If that is true, then why do others despise us? Why do they turn away? Ethan's gaze was sharp, almost defiant. Because they've forgotten. Or because they're afraid. Your scent doesn't mean weakness. It means history. It means power. And power always makes enemies. Leora's throat tightened. She had lived her whole life believing her scent was a curse. Could it really be a gift? She whispered, "Do you really think my people once fought beside humans?" Ethan turned the datapad so she could see. On the screen was an ancient sketch grainy, faded but clear enough. It showed two figures standing side by side, one clearly human, the other with faint silver-blue skin and long hair. Around them, lines of text described the Scented Ones, whose presence on the battlefield inspired both terror and courage. Leora reached out, her fingers trembling as they hovered over the image. It looked like her. It looked like her ancestors. I don't understand, she breathed. Why would this be hidden? Because the galaxy rewrites history to suit itself, Ethan said bitterly. The Council doesn't want reminders that humans had strong allies once. It doesn't want your people to remember what you truly are. Her chest tightened. She thought of the mocking laughter, the empty seats, the stares filled with disgust. All of it built on lies. Tears stung her eyes. I don't know if I can believe this. Ethan's hand rested lightly on her shoulder, not forceful, just steady. You don't have to believe it right now, but I believe it, and I'll help you uncover the truth. Her heart raced at his words. No one had ever spoken to her like that. No one had ever wanted to stand beside her. For the first time, she lifted her head and looked into his eyes. Why do you care? Why risk their anger for me? Ethan smiled faintly. Because humans don't run from the truth. And because sometimes the galaxy needs reminding that the things it calls weak are the things that save it. The wind shifted, carrying her scent stronger across the courtyard. Somewhere in the shadows, unseen cadets whispered, their voices sharp with disgust. But Leora didn't shrink this time. She stayed still, her back straight, the warmth of Ethan's hand steadying her. Maybe her people had once stood tall. Maybe the scent was not a curse, but a legacy. And if that was true, then her life was no longer just her own. It was a thread, connected to something ancient, something waiting to be remembered. As the stars glowed above them, Leora made a silent promise. She would uncover the truth. And when she did, the galaxy would no longer turn away. Asterisk. The forgotten truth, the Academy's library, was a giant tower of steel and glass, rising like a blade against the twin suns. Inside, endless shelves of records stretched into the shadows. Knowledge from thousands of worlds was stored here. Some truth, some lies, some carefully hidden by those in power. It was here that Ethan led Leora the next evening. The halls were empty. Cadets rarely came here unless ordered. But Ethan walked with purpose, carrying his datapad as if it were a weapon. Leora followed, nervous yet curious. The scent around her swirled in the quiet air, but for once, no one was here to mock it. Reached an old archive chamber at the very top of the tower. The door creaked open, dust rolling out like a ghost of forgotten years. Inside were shelves of cracked screens and fading star charts. This place is restricted, Leora whispered, her voice trembling. We shouldn't be here. That's why we have to be here, Ethan replied. His eyes glinted with determination. He powered one of the old consoles, and blue light flickered across the room. Ancient records scrolled before them, full of half-lost battles, alliances, and betrayals. Ethan typed quickly, searching through human and non-human archives alike. Finally, the screen froze on an image. Leora gasped. It showed her people, not outcasts, not cursed, but standing tall beside human soldiers. They wore armor marked with strange symbols, their weapons glowing with energy. Around them, the text spoke of the War of Ashes, a conflict so ancient most believed it was only legend. The words made her throat tighten. Ascended ones marched with the humans. Their aroma filled the battlefield, striking fear into enemies and courage into allies. Where their scent carried, no human fell back. Together, they broke the enemy line. Leora's knees weakened. She gripped the table to steady herself. So it's true. We were warriors. Not just warriors, Ethan said. Heroes. Your scent wasn't a curse. It was a weapon. It carried memory, fear, hope. It shaped battles. Her chest burned with conflicting emotions, relief, anger, sorrow. Then why? Why do we live in shame now? Why do my people believe we are cursed? Ethan's jaw tightened. Because the Galactic Council made it so. Look here. He scrolled further down, and another entry appeared. It described the councils. Rise after the war, how they erased records of dangerous allies, how they rewrote stories to keep power balanced. The council called your people unstable, Ethan explained bitterly. They spread lies, said your scent was poison, not strength. And when the galaxy believed it, your people were pushed aside. Forgotten. Leora's hands shook. Generations of shame, generations of silence, all built on a lie. Tears welled. In her eyes, my mother carried this shame. My grandmother, too. They never knew the truth. Ethan looked at her steadily. Now you do. And that changes everything. She met his gaze, her breath unsteady. Why tell me this? Why help me? Ethan smiled faintly, though there was steel in his eyes. Because humans remember. And because the galaxy is about to change again. When it does, you'll need to know who you really are. Before she could ask what he meant, the console beeped sharply. A new message flashed across the screen, classified military alert. The Academy's defense systems had intercepted a signal. Unknown fleets gathering at the edge of the sector. Leora froze. War? Ethan's eyes darkened. Looks like it. The alarm lights flickered through the library, bathing them in red. Outside, sirens wailed across the Academy grounds. Cadets shouted orders, scrambling into formation. Leora's heart pounded. Her scent thickened with fear, filling the air around her. She looked at Ethan desperately. If war comes, I will only bring more shame. Ethan shook his head firmly. No, if war comes, your scent might save us all. It did before. It will again. His certainty lit something inside her, something stronger than doubt, stronger than shame. Doubt. As the alarms echoed, she felt the weight of her ancestors pressing on her shoulders. For the first time, it was not a weight of shame. It was the weight of legacy. She whispered, almost to herself. The galaxy has forgotten us, but I will make them remember. Ethan nodded. Then let's remind them together. The seat of honor of the Academy was no longer calm. Sirens wailed through the night, red lights flashing against the tall steel walls. Cadets rushed across the courtyards, shouting orders in dozens of languages. Above, the sky glowed with streaks of incoming ships. The galaxy was changing, and it had come sooner than anyone expected. Leora stood frozen at the edge of the crowd. Her scent filled the air, heavier than ever before. Normally, this would have made her shrink away in shame. But tonight, she stood tall. Ethan was beside her, steady and calm as always. Unknown fleets have entered the sector, the Academy commander announced, his voice booming over the comms. Every cadet will prepare for defense drills. This is no exercise. Whispers spread quickly. Fear clung to the air. Even the proudest cadets shifted nervously in place. Leora's heart pounded. Her scent thickened, rolling out across the courtyard. Around her, cadets flinched and stepped back, covering their noses. She expected the familiar sting of rejection, the familiar whispers of disgust. But something strange happened. One cadet, one of the younger recruits, straightened his back. His wide eyes looked at her, then at the sky, then back again. And instead of shrinking away, he whispered, almost in awe, "The scent, it feels like fire, like we can win." The words spread like sparks. Others began to murmur. Some stopped, covering their noses. They breathed it in, their fear dimming just slightly. Ethan smiled faintly. "Told you, it's not a curse. It's a reminder." The commander barked new orders, directing squads to their stations. But even he paused when he caught the shift in the crowd. His sharp eyes flicked toward Leora, lingering for a moment before moving on. Leora's chest tightened. For the first time, her scent wasn't driving everyone away. It was pulling them together. She glanced at Ethan, her voice trembling. "What if this is who we were meant to be?" He met her gaze. "Then it's time the galaxy remembered." The Academy's ships roared to life, lifting off in formation. Leora and Ethan boarded with their unit, surrounded by cadets who now looked at her differently. Not all with respect yet, but no longer only with scorn. As the ship cut into orbit, the enemy fleet appeared in the distance, dark, sharp silhouettes against the stars. They were vast, countless, like a storm ready to swallow everything. Fear clawed at the cadets. Whispers rose again, doubts trembling in their voices. And then the air shifted. Leora's scent spread through the cabin, earthy, smoky, heavy with memory. It wrapped around the young soldiers like an invisible cloak. Their fear steadied, their breathing slowed, their grips on their weapons tightened with new resolve. Ethan stood beside her, watching with quiet pride. "See? You're doing it without even trying." Leora's eyes burned with sudden clarity. For so long she had carried shame. But now she understood. Her people had been warriors, their scent a banner of strength. The council had buried it, twisted it, called it poison. But they couldn't erase the truth. And now the truth was rising again. The ship shook as it neared the battle. Lights flashed, alarms screamed, voices shouted. But through it all, the cadets stood firm, not because of training, not because of courage, but because of her. Leora lifted her head high, her silver blue skin glowing in the dim light. For the first time, she did not hide. For the first time, she let her scent roll free. The commander's voice thundered over the comms. "Cadets, prepare for combat." Leora looked at Ethan. He gave her a steady nod, and when the enemy fleet loomed before them, dark and endless, the cadets did not break. They breathed her scent. They remembered the fire, and the galaxy, long blind, long silent, would finally remember who the scented ones truly were. When the ship dove into battle, Leora's heart no longer carried shame. It carried legacy. And in that moment, she was no longer the girl with the unwanted seat. She was the girl whose scent turned fear into courage, the girl who reminded the galaxy of a forgotten truth, the girl who would lead them into fire. Asterisk.